The call for the ANC to join former President Jacob Zuma's appeal against his possible re-incarceration is set to dominate the governing party's final National Executive Committee meeting for the year. The ANC NEC meeting starts later this afternoon. On Wednesday, the High Court in Pretoria ruled that Zuma's release from prison on medical parole in September was unlawful. It has since ordered that he be sent back to complete his 15-month jail term, but the ANC in Kwazulu-Natal has vowed to lobby its mother body to join the Correctional Services Department and the Jacob Zuma Foundation in appealing the judgment. The two appealing parties have owed to seek leave to appeal the court's decision, which nullifies the department's former Commissioner Arthur Fraser's decision to grant Zuma medical parole. Now, let's discuss this further and get Zoom. Levy, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Unati. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me today.
Now, Levy, of course, a very tough year for the ANC 2021. Now, looking into this final NEC meeting, I want us to discuss what will be possibly on the table for the party. But perhaps let's begin with the very latest. Of course, the call now for the ANC to join former President Jacob Zuma's appeal against his possible re-incarceration. Where does that put the ANC? We already know that the provincial ANC in KZN is in support with the Correctional Services Department. Where do you think the discussions will lead this afternoon?
Well, I think this is an opportune time for the ANC to take a final decision on its stance supporting former President Zuma in his own challenges. But it's also important to note that this is a totally different matter in the sense that it is a matter that relates to a decision that was taken for former President Zuma to be released from prison. He was never involved in the exercise, but other parties outside the ANC or interested parties decided to take the matter to the courts. And the courts have then realized that, or have ruled that the decisions taken were not supposed to have been taken. And I think what the ANC is trying to say here in KZN is that apart from the decisions that have been taken relating to supporting those that are appearing in courts or who have got court challenges, this is a totally different matter. It's a matter that a former President Zuma was not directly involved, even though he was a beneficiary. And with this matter having been brought in by those opposed to the ANC, it further divides the ANC in favor of those that put this matter to court, because in any way, as the oppositions to the ANC, they would love to see the ANC being divided. But I think in this case, it is up to the ANC to weigh what will be in the best interest of the party, but also looking at the circumstances generally surrounding this matter, wherein processes seem not to have been followed properly, but unfortunately, former President Zuma became a beneficiary.
But if you have to look at the events that we saw in July of this year, you know, when the former president was incarcerated, there are lots of fears that we will see those scenes again playing out in South Africa, you know, as we've seen in the unrest. So, of course, as you are speaking about the ANC having to balance out and weigh and see what decision they should take, there's also the other side where South African citizens are saying, you know, what is in the best interests of the country from a legal standpoint? What would the principle then be, you know, if they decide to join in and support this appeal?
Well, I think it will be very dangerous to relate this matter with an unrest, because then it actually suggests that the legal system should actually be threatened or to be pressurized to take decisions because of a possibility of an unrest. I think what would be the best strategy would be to look at this matter on the basis of the processes that were followed and that the person who is becoming a victim in this stage becomes former President Zuma. And all those that are sympathetic
of course, Levy,
to former President Zuma.
I'm bringing up this matter because we heard the correctional, the Justice Minister saying, they don't want to see a repeat of July. Of course, he mentioned, that people should not panic and that he was calling for calm. So already you can see that there is, that possibility and that fear that, we could see what happened in July happen or repeat itself again.
On the back of our minds, we'll never forget what happened in July. But also at the same time, we need to ensure that our laws are respected and the institutions that are created to uphold the law are supposed to be respected and given space to do their work. But the unfortunate part here is that it appears as if former President Zuma is being punished and is becoming a victim because of the processes that took place within correctional services. And I think that is the basis in which correctional services and the ANC in Kwazulu-Natal, including former President Zuma himself, are supposed to lay their arguments. Indeed, if you have situations that happened in July last year, it is up to the law enforcement agencies to also do what is right in ensuring that they prevent that from happening. But at the same time, you need responsible South Africans to be at the forefront of ensuring that legal processes are respected, but also at the same time, the ANC should not be seen as a party that instead of following the proper processes, they will insist on talking about instability, which has to happen at the expense of legal processes. That would be a contradiction of the founding values of our democracy and what the ANC stands for.
Of course, Olivia, just to correct you there, the unrest happened July this year, not last year, and I understand why you would make that mistake. Some people and some of us don't realize that, 2020 is actually last year and not this year. But just moving on in terms of the conversation about what to expect, in this final NEC meeting for the ANC. I mean, like I said earlier, a lot has happened this year for the ANC, and just recently, acting President David Mabuza, in his address at the memorial commemoration of the 60th of Umkhonto Wesizwe, again reiterating that the ANC should use this time to reflect on, the outcome of the local government elections. So what else are we likely to see being discussed in this meeting today?
I am already in 2022, Nati. But you'll understand. I think what the ANC has to do now, as they move into this NEC, is of course to have a very serious and deep reflection about how they actually performed during the local government elections. The fortunate part about the activities in the ANC is that the ANC's challenges are known not only to the leaders of the ANC, but to the members of the ANC and the ordinary citizens on the ground. If the ANC is unable to deal with factionalism within its ranks, and if the ANC is unable to provide services as expected by ordinary citizens, and if the ANC is always lenient on corruption and corrupt individuals within its ranks, the ANC must then be aware that the loss that they suffered in the previous elections is actually going to proceed as we move towards 2024. But what must also preoccupy the NEC would be to develop a program of action for next year, which must also be a build-up to 2024. The January 8th statement of the ANC must then provide a clear line of march and the program of action of the ANC on how they plan to do or to build their own organization on matters of renewal and on service delivery, which has to be, which have to occupy the programs of the party as we move towards. they must satisfy their own citizens that have elected them to be in power, but also at the same time, they must build a stronger ANC that must be able to contest elections and win in 2024.
In talking about building a stronger ANC, we've known not just the ANC actually saying, and other parties as well saying, that they will obviously start incorporating, credible people within their leadership structures and making sure that they appoint the right people at the right positions so that they can start serving the people of this country. Who do you think are some of those players that you think that the ANC will start using, who are credible, who stand for the ANC of yesteryear, as we've heard during the local government elections? In terms of the leadership makeup at the moment, we know that there have been some very problematic characters within the party that were found wanting. But as you start to observe the party, who do you think, will we likely see new players coming out, or old players actually being brought to the fore to actually, caretake over the new ANC, as it were, that they are trying to build?
Without mentioning names, I think the ANC must utilize the services of their former leaders in rebuilding the party. And also the ANC must be able to identify individuals who have the best interest of the ANC at heart, but who do not want to occupy any positions in government. One of the challenges that I've identified in the ANC is that the tussle and contestation for power is not necessarily about building the party or serving the people. It is mainly for self-interest. So if the ANC has to bring in those former leaders and identify certain individuals who can mainly focus on organizational activities, then the ANC might also be in the good path of rebuilding. But another area that I think the ANC has to focus on is an area that relates to discipline. The ANC seem to be quite wanting on matters of discipline within its own ranks. And there is no consequence management on wrongdoing within the ANC. And that is why it is easy for the ANC to be easily infiltrated by anybody and who can then become very influential within its own ranks. But another very important aspect that I see that has been wanting in the ANC, for me, is that the ANC should be able to build sufficient capacity at organizational level. If you don't have a strong rooting within the party and you only focus on deploying people in different state departments without a proper grooming at the party level, that can also be a disadvantage to the party. And I think that's one area that, for me, the ANC has to look into very seriously.
Levy Ndou, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate your analysis.
You're always welcome.
All right, let's continue here now.